Right, we are looking at composition yet again today, and today we're going to be looking at them when we're given function graphs and tables of values. So what we have on this graph here is I've got the graph f of x, which I am going to highlight yellow. That is our solid line. So this is f of x. And then we have g of x, which is our dotted line. And I'm going to go ahead and color code them just to make it even more clear which one is which. And we're going to be using this graph to answer all of these questions. So we're working from the inside out here, so starting on number 1, I want to find g of 2. G is my pink function. So I'm going to go to my pink function and look where x is 2. That's the point right here. And my y value there is 0, which means I'm now looking for f of 0, which is on my yellow graph. So on my yellow graph, I'm going to go to where x is 0, and that y value is down here at -3. And so that's my final answer. Let's look at number 2. Again, working from the inside out. First up, I have f of 2. So on my yellow graph, I'm going to go to where x is 2, and that y value is also 2, which means I'm now looking for g of 2 on my pink graph, and g of 2 is 0. Moving on to number 3, on the inside I have g of -4, so on my pink graph I'm going to go to where x is -4, that y value is +2, which means I'm now looking for f of 2 on my yellow graph. When x is 2 on the yellow graph, our output is +2. Again, this one is a double f, so looking on the inside first, f of 0 on the yellow, at x is 0, that output is -3, and I'm looking on the yellow graph once again, but this time at x equals -3, and that output is -2. Next up we have a double pink, g of -2, that's over here, gives me +2, so I'm now looking for g of +2, which again is on the pink, and that will give me 0. Number 6, f of -4. On my yellow graph, I'm going to look at -4. That gives me -3. So now g of -3, that's going to be on my pink graph, and that output is 2. Okay, this one's a triple. So again, we're just working from the innermost one out, starting with f of 0. Yellow of 0, that's going to give me -3. So now I'm looking for g of -3, which is 2. So lastly, I'm looking for f of 2 back on my yellow graph, and that gives me 2. G of f of 6, starting with yellow, at 6, that output is 5, so I want to find g of 5, which is on my pink graph, and that is going to be -3. And then our last two, starting with the inside, g of -5, that is, g of -5 is 4, so I'm looking for f of 4, which is on the yellow, and that is +2. Okay, last but not least, g of 5 is -3, so I want to find f of -3 on my yellow, and that's going to give me -2. So that is how we do composition using a graph. Now let's flip over to the back side and look at a table. So this time I'm given a table of values for x. This first row is my x's, so my inputs, and then the next two rows are my outputs, again for both f and g. So starting on number 1, I'm looking at the very inside, g of 2. So on my pink, I'm going to go to where x is 2, and the output is 5. So now I'm looking for f of 5, which is going to be on the yellow row, and that gives me an output of 7. Then on number 2, on my inside, I'm looking for f of 2. When x is 2, our output is 1. So I'm now looking for g of 1 on my pink row, which is here, and my output is 2. On to number 3. On the inside, I've got g of negative 1, which is 2. So I'm now looking for f of 2, which is 1. On number 4, f of 4, that is 5. So I'm looking for now g of 5 on my pink row. And that's going to be 26. Number 5, I'm looking for g of 1. That is 2. So I'm now looking for f of 2, which we know from number 3 is 1, but if you look again on your table, you will also see it's 1. On number 6, g of negative 2, that gives me 5. So then f of 5 is 7. On number 7, starting on the inside, f of 3, that is 3. So I now want to find g of 3 on my pink, and that gives me 10. Then last but not least, f of 1 is negative 1. So now I want to find g of negative 1, which is 2. And we are going to skip this bottom section because we have not learned linear and quadratic regressions in the calculator just yet. So your main takeaway today is how to use the table and the graph to answer these type of composition questions.